Welcome to What's the Difference? Stories about lives changed because you made a difference. Brought to you by the Mount Church. Here's your host, Pastor Andrew Segree.
Hey, welcome to the fourth episode of What's the Difference? We created this series because we believe that Jesus is still making a difference in people's lives today. So with each and every episode, you're going to hear from everyday people just like you, just like me, and we're going to ask the question, what's the difference? What's the difference that Jesus has made in your life? So make sure that you hit that like button or that little bell so that you get notified every single time a new episode drops. So today, for the fourth episode of What's the Difference, we are so honored to have on Pastor Chris Davenport. Woo! Pastor Chris, welcome to What's the Difference.
Man, thank you for having me. Are there like hand claps? Yeah, I made it. I'm here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's so good to have you. Some of you guys may remember Pastor Chris from a couple of months ago. Our lead pastor here, Todd Gaston, he interviewed you right when quarantine hit, right when everything shut down. We were able to partner with The Bridge, Pastor Chris's church, partner with The Bridge and give you some resources. I even showed up at your door, surprised you while you guys were on that Zoom call, and knocked at your door and brought you some flowers for your wife, not from me, but from our church to your wife as well. So I want to start just by asking you, were you surprised when I showed up at your door? Were you really surprised, or was it just for the cameras? No. And then what did it mean for us as a church to kind of come alongside you and partner with you guys right when all this quarantine stuff happened?
So when I was meeting with Pastor Todd, we had he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna be on Instagram, and I want to interview you through that, and ask you some questions. And are you gonna be home?" I was like, "Yeah, like why do I need to be home for you to interview me?" You know, and so It was really cool. I was talking with him, and then all of a sudden, like, there's this knock on my door. And so I was surprised, and I got flowers because I didn't give them to Megan. I kept them for myself. Wow, and I gave her all the gift cards, though. That's what she really cared about. But no, it was very surprising, and we were very, very thankful for that. The church was beyond thankful for that. I love that churches get to partner with one another, and churches are for churches. Like, I know in you guys' vision, you're for one more, but it seems that you're also for other churches too. And the Bridge Church is really appreciative of that, and we're thankful for you.
Yeah, man. Well, we're excited, and we are for you, and of course, we are for one more, just like you said. And we love what God has called you to do and what He wants to do in you and then through the Bridge as well. But let's back it up for a little bit. Let's just take a moment and how about you kind of officially introduce yourself to our audience, people who will be watching. Man, tell us where you're from, and then even just tell us about your own personal journey with Christ. I mean, when did you accept Christ, and what did that look like when you decided to let Him be the Lord and leader of your life?
Yeah. Well, my name is Chris Davenport, and I get...
Well, you have to give your middle name.
Oh, yeah.
Also your social security number and your home address if you could.
647. I'm just kidding. And I get to be the pastor of the Bridge Church. I'm originally from Chattanooga, Tennessee, born and raised there, and semi-raised in Marietta, Georgia, too. So at the age of 2, I moved to Marietta, Georgia, and then I started high school again in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And so grew up there, didn't grow up in church. My junior year of high school, I started going to a private Christian school. And it was like an eye-opener to me because these teachers like poured into me, cared for me, was teaching me about Jesus and the gospel. And I was at chapel one day, and I heard this message about like, man, Jesus is loving, but Jesus is also just. And I was like, ooh, yeah, I want some loving, like I want Christ to love me. And so I remember it was December 3rd, 2006 is when I gave my life to Christ, and I was baptized on that day.
Yeah.
And so from
Now,
that
how
point,
old were you at that point?
16, man, 16. So there's a wire that had to change in my life. Like, God was transforming me. Things that I thought was biblical, that was not biblical, and things that I thought were okay. I was saying, like, man, this doesn't really please God. Yeah. And so God worked in my life at 16 years old, and I became passionate for sharing the gospel. And I remember, like, right after I got saved, there's this gas station that's right down the street from our high school that I was always going to faithfully, not knowing that I was building a relationship with people and the clerk and things like that. And it was ran by Muslims that were there. And so I went in there after I got saved. I had my King James Version Bible. Didn't really know how to read that. And I knew John 3:16, and that was it. So I walked in there. It was more like a good luck charm. And it was glass that's in front of this register. And so I knocked on that glass and I was like, hey, man, can I talk to you about Jesus? I did not think he would say yes. And to my surprise, he said yes.
Wow.
And so I went to the back. People were coming in, buying things. And I began to share the gospel in some way. And God protected me, you know, because some of the things I didn't have an answer for. I'm a baby in the faith. But I just knew that Jesus died on the cross for my sins. And I knew that he was God. And so I just kept preaching that.
There you go.
And obviously, he didn't give his life to Christ. But I got this hunger to tell people about Jesus. Like, I wanted people to know how Jesus just gives freedom, man. He gives freedom. And I wanted people to realize that.
Yeah, that's good, man. So 16 years old, you give your life to Christ. You barely know anything about the Bible. You're like, I'm going to go preach this message to other people.
Yeah.
When did you begin to know that God was calling you into ministry? When did that first begin, and what did that look like?
So I went to college at Welch College to play college basketball. Okay, so I wasn't really that good, but I played a little bit.
Not as good as LeBron. Right?
Yeah, not as good as LeBron. Yeah. And so I went there, and I was playing there, and I started taking these Bible courses again, and so I felt God just tugging on my heart. And then my sophomore year, I started to major in missions. And so I was like, yes, I want to go reach people overseas, tell them about Jesus. So I need to know more about my faith. Like, why do I believe what I believe? And so I began to start studying courses like that and preparing to be a missionary overseas, where God totally changed that. Gripped my heart for not just people overseas, but people here in America, right? Like, there's lost people, unchurched people everywhere. Yeah. And I began to realize that once I graduated college.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So you're married right now, right? Your wife, Megan. So
right now, just right now.
Yeah, just hopefully continue. But so at some point from you coming here to being called into ministry, you met her. So when did you first meet her, and then how did you know that she was the one that was going to join you in this journey, this calling that God's placed on your life? So
the one. So my freshman year of college is when I met her. I was introduced to her by a basketball player on my team who was dating her at the time. Yeah, and so
was it LeBron James?
Yeah, it was LeBron James. Yeah, he's like, I need to introduce you to my girlfriend, and so I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely taking her. Because anyway, so that's not really how it went down. There was really no attraction to her at that point, and so I met her at church. So introduced to her at church, and then I ended up leaving that church to go to another church because all my buddies were going to another church. So I was like, I want to go to this church here. And then I went back there where they had broken up, and she sang on stage. And I was like, I am getting her number after this. And so right after that, I was like, hey, text me sometime. And she texted me, hey, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark.
Wow, 3 exclamation marks?
3. I knew it was real when I got 3. And so, and then after that, maybe like 3 months later, I said, I love you. And I was ready to go, man. I was like, I want to... she's a great leader. She loves the Lord. She's on fire for Christ, and a great singer. She sings me to sleep, man. So I'm like, yeah, she's the one. That's how I knew.
That's
Yeah,
good. Awesome, man.
I mean, what? She's read through Leviticus, and when she read through that, I was like, oh yeah, definitely. You know, that's one of the hardest books in the Bible to go through and read. And she's like, yeah, I've read that, best book of my life. She didn't say that, but yeah, man, she's faithful and she's in love with the Lord. And we have a daughter by the name of Lily, and Lily James is her middle name. That's Megan's, my wife. Father's name. His name is James. Yeah. And she said, no matter if we're having a boy or a girl, the middle name's going to be James. Okay, and so obviously Megan wears the pants in this relationship. And so, yeah. And so Lily's awesome. She's in gymnastics at Paragon, and she's great.
Yeah, that's good, man. So you're married now. God's calling you to ministry. You got 3 exclamation points. And then you marry this girl. You guys have a kid, and then at some point, God says, look, come to Fredericksburg, Virginia, and this is where you're going to do ministry. Like what? Like out of all the places in the country, maybe even the world, why Fredericksburg? Why did you end up coming here?
Yeah, we were actually... so the overseas thing, we actually did go overseas. We went to Hawaii, if you could say that's overseas, and we went to help someone start a church there. Yeah. And so we've always been in love with church planting, telling people about Jesus. And so when we were in Hawaii, I was an associate church planter. And God started moving my heart to say, like, man, you could be a leader, you could be a lead church planter. I want to start moving into that direction. Listen, I've never started a church before. I've only been involved in doing that. I had never preached Sunday to Sunday. And in fact, I was nervous. Honestly, I'm still get nervous when I'm on stage preaching. I'd never led communion, never done a funeral, never done a wedding. So I'm thinking, like, God, like, why would you even be calling me into something like this? You know, I'm not worthy, and 2, don't think I'm prepared for anything like that. And there was a church here in Fredericksburg, Virginia, called Heritage Free Will Baptist Church, and this church had maybe 20, maybe 15 to 20 members there, and they had been without a pastor for 2 years, and it tells you how faithful they are, and they're pushing through it, but they reached out to our home church in Nashville, Tennessee, which is the church I met Megan, the church that Megan grew up in, the church that really discipled me and groomed me. And they reached out to them, and that church in Nashville, which is called the Donaldson Fellowship, took over Heritage Free Will Baptist Church. And so they start filling the pulpit every single Sunday, and we were praying about this in Hawaii, given to them to the vision that they had for Heritage, and then we started talking to them about it, and we're like, you know what, we feel that God is calling us there. And so, I mean, we just got to learn that there are 300,000 people that were in Fredericksburg. It's an hour outside of D.C. There were some statistics that came out that said there were 120,000 unchurched people that live in Fredericksburg. And so I'm like, wow, like that's a lot of people. But it was including like Stafford, Fredericksburg City, and Spotsy, right? And so, area. And so I was like, man, hour outside of D.C., like, and it's a community town. Like, we have the opportunity not only to like make an impact on Fredericksburg, but we have the opportunity to make an impact on our nation's capital. And I think if we can make an impact on our nation's capital, we can make an impact on our nation and to the entire world. And so that's our vision for the Bridge Church. We moved here with the vision to reach people, man, reach diverse communities with the gospel, and continue to launch healthy churches. And so, that's why we're here. We're here to share the gospel. We're here to tell people about Jesus and love in our community.
And then we've been talking now for a year and a half or so. So, but tell everyone, what year was it that you came to the area?
Yeah. So it was 2009, the end of April 2019. And so when we first got here, we wanted to keep everything the same. So we didn't change anything. Like they had ministries that were going on, and different things like that. But we just wanted to really get to know that church. And so about August, I want to say it was August, I don't really know the timeline too well, but about August, I think we closed the doors of that church, changed the name, changed the mission, changed the vision, began to train them up to show them what it looks like to share the gospel, to reach their community, to welcome people inside the church, like to what that looks like. and we end up selling our church and launching, relaunching out of an elementary school.
Yeah.
And so, which is also very humbling, And so, so 2019, end of April,
Yeah.
is when we were here.
So end of 2019, that church is in essence rebirth. So you rebirth this church and begin to reach out to all the unchurched people in the community. I know you guys have done lots of outreach, trying to show the community that you love them, that you're for them, that Jesus is for them too. And so you build a brand new team. You grow the members that were at this church that you're rebirthing now. You build a brand new team, and people are already giving their life to Christ. You haven't officially relaunched yet to the public, and then you have your official launch day in March of 2020.
March 1st.
Then COVID hit.
Yeah.
Tell us what it was like for you to. I mean, you uprooted your whole family. Your wife, your daughter Lily, your wife who sings you to sleep. You uproot them. You move them to this area. You guys are loving people, seeing God already do great things. Then you officially launch, and then you have to shut down. Tell us what it was like for you to experience that, but then also how have you led your church through this quarantine, just this unprecedented time in the country and also in church world? Yeah.
Well, when this first happened, take it back in August, we were like doing crazy things for the community because if anyone knows me, like I care for people. Like I just want people to do well. So we did a lot of outreach, service projects, not just because we were launching the church, but that's our nature. Like that's in our DNA. Is to care for the community. And in fact, we have budget meeting fights all the time. I'm like, no, let's drain all the money to the community. They're like, no, you can't do that. But so we built our team all the way right up to March 1st. We had 48 people just on our core team. So you go from that 20 and then like those people, half people that leave, and there's like 10 people. Like you're starting with the faithful 10 to start this church. You do all these amazing, wonderful things in the community. You build your team up to 48 people, and then you launch your church, and there's 227 people that walk into your doors. And you're like, God, this is going to be the best year. Like, just wait till Easter. Like, man, this is going to be amazing. We're going to grow. Not that it has to do anything with numbers, but it just shows us like how we're impacting the community. Like how we're reaching
that's important because, for you guys out there who maybe don't study church world that much, like the average church in America averages about 80 or so people. So for you to launch with, about 3 times that number to begin with is really incredible.
And so I was like, man, this is great, Lord. You're using us. And we're just excited. We got all these plans lined up. We already bought banners ready for Easter. We're just ready to go. Like, man, this is going to be great. And 2 weeks down the road, we had to close the doors. And I remember thinking like, man, all that we did, is that gone out the window, Lord? Like, you've promised your word doesn't return void, but like, we can't get that money back, And I remember him saying, like, I'm faithful, like, are you going to trust in me? Like, I want to continue to provide for you like I provided for you those 8 months. And your church has never been about a building anyway. Like, you got rid of your building to me into elementary school to pay rent. Your church has always been about the community. You didn't do that to launch the church. And so what would halt you from doing things in the community during COVID-19? And so, like, in our DNA, we've always been making intentional disciple makers. We've always been reaching diverse communities. We've always been out there in the public, letting people know that we care. COVID is a real thing, and we want to watch out for that because we care for people that get sick. We love on people that get sick, but we didn't want fear to take over our lives. And so we continue to say, hey, church, care for your neighbors. Like, what does it look like for you to reach out to your neighbors, make sure they're doing well? We ran out of toilet paper, and so, like, do you got extra toilet paper to give, or if you don't have any, go to your neighbors, see if they got toilet paper, And so maybe God blesses you through a neighbor. And so we just make sure that we stayed mission focused because that's what Jesus was about, He was about reaching the community no matter what the chaos was around him. No matter if people were looking to kill him, he's like, I still got to reach these people, And so that's the kind of mentality that I placed into our church.
That's good, man. That's really good because it's been such a challenging season, but to help people be consistently reminded of, okay, what does the gospel call us to be? Who did Jesus mirror us to be? And then also for you to keep leading people that way, such a powerful thing to do in this season. And so, but not only did you have to deal with, COVID-19, quarantine, things shutting down, but we've seen this resurgence now, even racial tension in America.
Yeah.
And I know one of the values, part of the vision of the Bridge Church, is to reach diverse communities, to build those around the gospel. So, how have you even led your church through that during this time? And then, how do you think the gospel can help actually bring real unity in gospel communities?
So right away, when all this was going down, I wanted to remind the church that this is not a new thing, that racism always has existed, right? But God has, like, when you read his word, he never shows favoritism. Like, he cares for all people, no matter what they look like, their race. A huge example of this is probably the Samaritan woman.
Sure.
Like, he says, like, I have to go this certain direction, when he really doesn't have to go there, but he had a divine appointment with this Samaritan woman who's probably racially profiled. She's a woman, which women were treated unjustly then. She had sinned like crazy, sin all in her life, and he didn't racially profile her. He didn't hate her. He loved her. He cared for her, to preach her the gospel. And so, in a lot of those cases, I say, man, it doesn't matter what you look like, or what you've done in the past. Like, let's not show favoritism the same way Jesus didn't show favoritism and care for people when they're hurting. And so when all this racial tension was going on, you had questions like, are black people really profiled, or are they really look to be gunned down, and things like that. And the key word that I kept coming to is, like, show empathy. Show empathy and watch what you put on social media, because people are watching that. And if our mindset is to reach people, like if our mission is to go out and share Jesus, then our mindset would be like, okay, how can I reach this person who's obviously broken and feels like they are just at the bottom of the barrel? Like how can I elevate them, love on them, care for them, show them empathy, and then pour the gospel into them to let them know that, man, you may be racially profiled here, but I know a king that loves you that would never racially profile you. And so, like, it always came down to showing love, showing empathy, caring for the broken, the same way that Jesus cared for the broken and the lost.
Yeah, that's good, man. I think that's so important for us to remember, above everything, we keep, Jesus' kingdom perspective, what he's called us to do. And man, if you have not read John chapter 4, go read that today. That story is so beautiful, how Jesus, like you said, goes to this Samaritan woman that everyone else would have rejected because of the ethnic group that she was a part of. But he's like, I have to go to Samaria to show this girl like how I love her and what she's called to do. So yeah, powerful. That's so good, man. I feel like you're preaching now. Remember, we're just talking, so calm down a little bit.
It's getting hot.
Calm down a little bit. Okay, so, man, so much has happened. So many unexpected things have happened to you. But one of the things that, even just from us talking right now, and as we've talked before, it seems like it's been so clear every single step of the way. Look, God has been in this. So what's maybe just a couple stories where you can kind of sit back and said, wow, look what God did, either in me or even just around me as a result of what the bridge has done. You look back and say, man, I saw Jesus make a difference there. I saw him move there. What's maybe a couple of stories that you see have come out of since your time here?
Yeah, well, I've always I try to write down things of like how God has never left or forsaken. Like he has all these promises that he would never leave nor forsake you, and I always try to write them down. Like, Lord, how has that happened? Like, how have you shown your faithfulness? One, we're a brand new church, and you think like, you close the doors, 227 people came that first Sunday. Like Lord, we haven't even talked about like generosity and what giving looks like, how to keep things still alive, and our church has just been, it's been crazy to me. Our church has been so faithful in giving their time and their talents and their treasure. And God has just been really providing through them. Like we haven't seen a dip in any of our giving. And honestly, there may be some, and this is not a knock to any other churches that are losing their tithe and losing their giving and things like that. But one of the reasons I think that hasn't happened is because every time God gives to us, we give to the community.
That's good.
And so it's like he is providing for us to be able to give to people. And so we've seen God really move in a way where he's just growing our church during a season where people are going to church online, or people not even showing up any longer, or things are getting moved and changed. Like we haven't had to deal with any of those things, but we've seen God very present and making sure that our church is growing spiritually and also growing financially, which is really, really awesome. Another thing is, before COVID happened and all these things, like I had never done a lot of things that pastors have done before, right? Mm-hmm. So like I've never even, I think I did communion one time, which was at the church, and I had never, like I get to do my first wedding in a couple of weeks, like which is really, really cool. But I had never baptized anyone before, and so it still made me nervous. But like I saw God move when the first person, which was my neighbor, she came downstairs. We had been talking for a while, invited them to our house. I was telling her about church, trying to get her to be a part of the launch team, and she wanted to know more about Christ, and which was really, really cool. And I asked for a broom, and so she brought it down, and we began talking more. And that day, she gave her life to Christ.
That's so good.
And I'm like, wow, like Jesus really just swept your sins away just now. You know?
Did you say that to her?
Yeah, I should have. And so, man, I got to I've seen a lot of people come to Christ. I've gotten to lead a lot of people to Christ, but I've never baptized before. And so that was my first baptism. You can go and watch it on Facebook. I was super nervous, shaky. It's not even about me or my day, but it's like, Lord, this is crazy. Like you're using me in a mighty way to be able to connect people to Jesus, that the people that might have not heard right things about you, that might not have even heard you in general. And I see you moving in my life, my family's life, and the church's life by watching people connect to Christ. Before even we launch a church, you know, we had two baptisms before we launched a church. So man, it's been crazy. It's been awesome.
That's good, man. Well, it's good to see this, how God's been making a difference, both in you and through the ministry of the Bridge, to see people giving their life to him even before you officially launch, and even in this crazy season, to see God still working in you and in your church all throughout the community to continue to reach people has been so powerful and so good. If people wanted to connect with you, find out more about the Bridge, or even join you, is there a website they should go to, or Facebook page? Like, where can they find some more information about the ministry?
Yeah, I'll just give you my number. It's 540. No, I'm just kidding. So you can go to our website, which is the Bridge, FXBG, which is Fredericksburg, right? .org. So the Bridge, FXBG.org, and you can email us on there. You can go to our Facebook page, the Bridge FXBG, Instagram, all the social media sites is under the Bridge FXBG.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Hey, man, I just wanted to tell you thank you so much, for taking the time and joining us for this 4th episode of What's the Difference? Man, I know your passion for people and your passion for God is inspiring to me as a leader and a pastor, and even just how you love your wife and your daughter is inspiring to me as a father and a husband as well. So, man, thank you for the example that you've been setting and for letting the difference that Jesus made in you and through you shine so bright for other people to see. So, man, thank you for joining us on this episode. Yeah. So
I really appreciate you, and thank you for having me, and thank you for being an encouragement to our church and to other churches. You know, it's really good to see that here in Fredericksburg.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, I want to thank you guys for joining us for episode 4 of What's the Difference? Again, be sure to hit that like or subscribe button or that little bell so you can get it when the next episode drops. In fact, the next episode, I'm so happy to have Gabby and Hudson Center on. They're going to PNG very soon, and so they're giving up good Wi-Fi, air conditioning, and American coffee to go do what Jesus has called them to do. So you won't want to miss the next episode. But thank you again for joining us for What's the Difference?
Thank you for tuning in to What's the Difference? Click on subscribe to make sure you get the next episode with Pastor Andrew. Connect with us for more resources and information on how you can make a difference at mtararat.org. See you at the Mount.